Hello, everyone, and I welcome you in Cannes to this very interesting panel discussion. Today, I'm joined by Poppy Mason-Watts. Poppy, you're the Chief Growth and Impact Officer of Waterbear, right?
That is correct, yes. Thank you for having me.
Hello. We are also here with Béatrice de Noray. Béatrice, you're Group Chief Growth Officer of Bell Group. Bell is the owner of the famous Laughing Cow, for example.
And Baby Bell. And Go-Go Squeeze.
We got them all now.
And Thomas Kolster. Thomas, you are a famous author of books about sustainability marketing, The Hero Trap, for example. And you're a sustainability and marketing advisor.
The only guy who doesn't have growth in the title, but I can add better growth.
Okay, so welcome again. And today our goal is to unpack how brands are collaborating for good, right? So why collaboration, and why do we believe at Ipsos we think it's important for brands today? So we'll try to develop how brands and partners, NGOs, can collaborate for good. And as marketers, we've learned in the past years some hard lessons about brand purpose, right? One of the lessons we've learned is that the importance of engaging with people and get it right with people, right? If a brand is preaching too much, there is backlash, ultimately, right? Yet some brands today, they're really still struggling to engage people and to do it right. And at Ipsos, we have some advertising database, and we do compare campaigns which have sustainability goals. And we've seen that the ones who are really focusing on the message of people themselves and not the brand too much, and on the impact of actions instead of brand purpose, are far, far more effective. So one of the big learning we have is that, of course, brands can do good, but they cannot really too much overshadow the impact they do. But we know that, of course, creating sustainable campaigns is a difficult art. I cannot be there without saying that brands need absolutely to be creative, right? However, brands, they see the risk as much as they see the opportunity. And to be vocal, they can be sometimes unauthentic, right? So if they are unauthentic, campaigns backfire, greenwashing, and so on. So on the other hand, if brands are polishing too much what they say, they just remain unnoticed, and basically people don't remember what they have to say. So I think that's why I believe collaboration is a key topic, because it allows brands to really remain authentic, then remain memorable. And they can be powerful vehicle of storytelling, but also social change. Right. So that's the topic of today. And before we explore the topic together, I just wanted to share one last insight about a research that Ipsos has done. We've surveyed 60 causes and 200 brands. And one of the big learning we have is first that it's good news. 95% of people are very engaged into at least one cause in their life, right? So people are ready to act on the world and do social change. What we've done as well is that we've tried to link how engaged audience with brands, they do connect also with some causes in particular. So let me just take you an example, and after that we'll dive into the topic of today. Let's take defending women's rights. That's the most prevalent cause in our study, right? So that's something where a lot of people can engage with. But if we take the first brand that scores very high on defending women's rights, guess what? It's Netflix. I mean, if you think about it, Netflix is a brand that is promoting women's rights in a way. If you take, for example, Unorthodox, it's a tale of someone getting out from its community. female empowerment. If you take, I don't know, The Handmaid's Tale, it's a powerful story, again, about women's empowerment. But let's take another brand. For example, that was a big surprise for us, Dr. Martens. The big fans of Dr. Martens also engage very strongly in women's empowerment. So imagine, if Dr. Martens and Netflix would collaborate for good, for women, what would it be? I think that's pretty inspiring for me. So just leaving you with that, and we can maybe start with the first question, right? So I'm going to start with you, Thomas. I think in your professional life, you've seen so many campaigns, so many good collaboration campaigns. So I wanted you to share some successful examples and illustrations of good brand collaborations you've seen in the past.
Perfect. Yes, and thank you for bringing me down the Dr. Martens memory lane. I'm an 80s kid, so I do remember those colorful boots very much. So, yeah, I think all the way back to my first book, Good Advertising, which was out around 2010, 2011, I think brand partnerships was really also at that time quite prominent. And that was campaigns like Project Red that some of you might remember, Bobby Schreiber and others who was raising funds to fight HIV, owning the color red and doing lots of brand collaborations around that. So they did collaborations with Nike, they did collaborations with Apple, still ongoing, was one of those early examples. I think for me what I'm really passionate about when it comes to collaboration is that I think we've, and you touched on it a little bit, have evolved in terms of where sustainability is at right now. And I think a lot of brands do witness that these things cannot be solved by just one brand. We actually need to work together to fight some of these much more systemic challenges. One thing could be packaging, where you see form of foes or competitors come together, whether it's PepsiCo or Coca-Cola, who suddenly work together to look at packaging. So I really do think that collaboration is one of those big drivers. It's also one of the sustainable development goals for those who are a bit nerdy, the UN Sustainability Goals, number 17. So I do think there is a lot of power in collaboration. Also, one campaign that I want to bring up that I also had in my latest book, The Hero Trap, was from II. And I know it's one of those campaigns that's been talked a lot about, the outdoor retailer II in the US. Because you talked about this idea about courses. How do we bring things down to something that everybody understands? And I think what they did so well was they said, on the busiest shopping day of the year, Black Friday, we're an outdoor company. People are passionate about nature. Could we do something around that? And what was great about it as well was it was something that could go both sides in the US. So both people who are more climate skeptical, so just people who love nature in general. So they said, go outside, enjoy the outdoors. And when we did a bit of the research, the interesting thing was also the slow beginning of the campaign was, 1.2 million people, but then it quickly grew and grew and grew, and more organizations actually joined. And I think that's really what collaboration can do over time. You set a vision, you say others with a similar goal come and join us, and that has just grown. Today it's one of the most busy days in the national parks across the US, which is testament to the effect and the impact of that one specific campaign.
Very interesting. Maybe you have, Poppy, you have maybe some examples to share with us, because I know you're collaborating with brands and you're collaborating with NGOs, and you produce documentaries that are, mind-blowing.
For sure. Thank you for saying mind-blowing. It's interesting, as you said, the Netflix example about storytelling, right? Because have you guys seen Don't Look Up?
Yep.
Of course,
right?
Lovely film.
So 500 million people watched that, which is a 14th of the planet. Did any of you around this table know that it was connected to a climate campaign with Count Us In? No, right? And therein lies why we launched Waterbear, which was how could we connect storytelling and capture that aha moment and give people the tools to take action when they're feeling inspired. But we couldn't do any of that without collaboration, right? So we're a slightly weird breed in that we're a social action storytelling platform with millions of users who we call imperfect activists who want to engage and galvanize around action, but need that story to move them to action. And we really believe in the power of, or I personally also believe in the power of brands, NGOs, foundations, different types of organizations coming together to tell those stories, because that's how you're going to reach more and mobilize more people. Now, a beautiful example of that is a film we worked on with Jack Wolfskin, which is an outdoor apparel brand, very similar to the Patagonias of the world, and they deeply care about rewilding as a topic, right? That's their cause area. We partnered them with an organization called Foundation Conservation Carpathia, which is an NGO based out of Romania, focused on rewilding the Romanian forests. And what we did, they co-funded a film, and they co-funded an impact campaign, and at the end of it, and then they streamed it, we produced it, we streamed it on our platform, we built an impact campaign around it, and they were able to then say, not only do we have the marketing metrics of X, so impressions, reach, etc., but we also have an impact metric that we can report on and show that we planted this many trees in this area. And we work with so many brands to do the same. So Rolex deeply care about ocean conservation. Oatly are deeply care about oat milk. Probably not the one to bring up in in France. But we've also we work with Nikon, we work with Deciem, Patagonia, Lush, all of these brands who want to drive impact, who want to do business slightly differently, who want to partner with NGOs and want to put their marketing dollars into slightly different collaborations. And that's kind of what we're doing and focused on.
Very interesting. Thank you for sharing. I wanted to ask you a question, Beatrice. So, from a big advertiser like Bell, how do you make sure you align your company's purpose with potential collaboration you wanna start with NGOs or other brands? I would be curious to hear about what you have to say.
So you're right. So at Bell, we have a purpose which is for all, for good. So which is super broad, but really anchored into our brand portfolio. And each brand, being the Los Cinco, Kiri, Boursin, Go Squeeze, or Baby Bell, global brands, have their own social role and the brand purpose that we activate. And we believe a lot in collaboration and cooperation. So it can be in several areas. If you take the example of the Los Cinco, we often say that we sell portion of goodness. So it's really in the triangular portion, you have all the nutrients that are required to properly feed the population. But the needs are very different. So you may not know, but the Los Cinco, it's in 120 countries with more than 100 recipes. So we have a program called Recipes for Good that we have developed already 5 years ago, which is really targeting the nutritional needs of the kids in several areas, in North Africa, in Europe, in India, and to adapt the recipe to the needs and the specific needs of the kids that are not the same all over the world. Yeah. And we know that more than 50% of the kids are not getting the nutrients that are required for healthy nutrition and to grow properly. So we have adapted these recipes in collaboration with nutritionists, with scientists. We are communicating on the benefits linked to each of the country in partnership with BETC and Providence. And then we are able to really embody what are a commitment for a better nutrition through this program, which is Recipe for Good. And in the same area, we have also a program which is called Portion for Good, which is really this ability to have local partnerships with local NGOs to be able, because when we have seen that in every crisis, a sanitary crisis and so on, we are required to provide some the Los Cinco portions, because it can easily travel, it can be ambient, it can be really, it's portion that you can distribute one by one. So we are really supporting local NGOs, and each country we have a global program, but each country is looking for its own partnership to leverage the strengths of the global brand, but really bring the local magic of what is relevant to the country and to the partnership, and be able to tailor the program we have.
Very interesting. So actually a lot of collaborations happening.
Yeah.
I wanted to get maybe to the third question. So we are here in the temple of advertising, right? So creativity and so on. But what do you think the role of advertising is in terms of, creating those campaigns, those collaboration campaigns, and how the advertising industry is basically trying to facilitate those collaborations, or maybe not facilitating them? So I wanted to have maybe, Thomas, your perspective on how does the advertising industry shift towards more collaboration or facilitation of those?
I think the industry are sort of maturing on this topic, seen over time, and also actually not just non-profits collaborating, but brands collaborating on big issues, which I think is also a big potential, especially now when we see on a global scale politics changing, funding changing. This is where I think there's a real opportunity for brands to step in and fill that funding gap on a lot of these powerful issues. As we see with Bell Group, where nutrition and food deserts that we see across the world, or calorie deserts, or nutrition deserts, this is an opportune moment for a lot of brands to actually go in and collaborate on some of these pivotal areas. So I think the industry is slowly waking up, and I do also see more brands working together on this. One of the prime examples that came out of Cannes last year, which did very well, was from DP World, container harbor company out of the Emirates, who actually asked themselves this question. We have all these containers being shipped around the world that are being set at a certain degree to keep the food fresh. But what happened if we just dialed that down a couple of degrees? Would that still be enough to transport the food? So there was this minus 15 collaboration, which I thought was very, very clever. Other shipping companies joining this this effort. So I do see that we're at an interesting time also, because what does that mean? It means that every brand can save resources, every brand can save emissions. So I do think there is a lot of potential areas where brands can benefit from an economic point of view. We can create better impact together. And I think just the fact that today we're sitting in the Sustainability Hub in the Palais, which is a new initiative created by a partnership between ACT Responsible and Cannes Lions, showcase that I think the industry is getting ready. And I really do encourage now, in times where a lot of non-profits, a lot of important societal issues are lacking funding, that we as companies, we as advertisers, we as brands can step together and actually solve some of these really pivotal things.
Thank you. I think just coming back to you, before coming back to you again after that, Poppy, but do you think, how does your agency support you with these collaborations? Is the collaboration coming from Bear originally, or is it maybe something that agency proposes?
Yes,
or?
We have a close partnership with our agency for sure, and we have. It's not a partnership; it's really setting together the strategy of the brand on the long term, on how we build the brand, how we build the brand at a global level, because we strongly believe in the strength of a global brand, but how as well we activate in a relevant way at a local level. So the partnerships can be in several aspects, and it can be on social causes, as I told you on TLC. It can be indeed on environmental causes. So we are, for instance, working with WWF on a global partnership for sustainable dairy and sustainable farming, which is super important on the dairy aspect, because part of the CO2 emission and the resilience of the food model is really linked to the upstream, and our scope 3 is much more important than our scope 1. And WWF, we are really embodying through Kiri brand that time, working more on biodiversity to make sure that each brand has its own territory. So we have global commitments embodied through the brand, and yes, we work it closely because it's part of the ecosystem of the brand strategy. It's not activation, it's really what is our brand strategy and how the partnerships and cooperation can leverage this brand strategy to engage the consumer. And you said it, the consumer don't want to be educated, they want to be engaged. And for me, this is the role of the advertising. It's really impact and engage in our consumer in a positive way.
Superb, thank you. Maybe, Poppy, before you were saying that the partnership of the brand you were talking about was measuring the number of trees they planted. So I'm a bit curious to hear about how do these brands and how do they measure effectiveness? Of course we have like return on investment, we have like return on brand, but what is return on impact maybe?
Of course, and it's the question I think I get asked most because my role is make money for the organisation, but also make as much impact as we can for the organisation. And they're often kind of seen as two very different things, but we put them together because we believe that if we can channel or encourage brands to be spending in the right place, we can ultimately we can change things, right? When it comes to measurement and metrics, I always say that I think brands should think about doing away with traditional marketing metrics and incentivizing impact metrics, but recognize as a marketeer that it's going to be impossible to do that in the short term because everyone has to report to shareholders and everyone needs to show their ROI. So instead we say have a dual metric, which is impact and traditional marketing ROI. When it comes to measuring impact at Waterbear, we're real nerds about it. We set the organization up with the core premise of wanting to create as much change as possible. So we measure everything from how we are producing a film to the creators that we're working with, to the filmmakers we're working with, making sure there's a percentage of creators and filmmakers from the global south, making sure that we have a decentralized production model, making sure that we're Albert certified, so no plastic water bottles, single-use plastic, etc. So there's that kind of measurement. Then we're looking at measurement and behavior change after someone has watched or engaged with a story. And I think it's important to caveat that I really love the recipes, right? Because on Waterbear, it's not just films, it's also content and small stories, articles, podcasts, any kind of story that might inspire someone or galvanize them into action. So when it comes to story metrics, it's we set the metrics with each organization, right? So Rolex are really focused on how can we build awareness around ocean conservation. So it's pre and post surveys, it's how many views have things had, it's has behaviors changed. Another organization, the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, which is an eminent or leading voice on circularity, their brief to us was, can you make circularity sexy? Very, very challenging brief, right? It's quite a dead zone word when people talk about it. But we've just made a reality TV kind of cooking format with them using food waste. Their measurement will be on mass awareness around the word circularity, but it will also be on what did you think before, what did you think after. We've also got things like petitions signed, trees on the ground, there's a whole kind of back end piece to it.
I'm very happy because that's really where we play at Ipsos. So
great.
It sounds like
we should talk after.
It sounds like we have good opportunities to talk about. I think maybe I wanted to have a closing question for everyone. It's just maybe looking ahead for the future, right? So when we think about the next stage of partnerships and collaborations we want, where do we see that going in the future, right? You saying, Thomas, that some states are retreating, they are holding back some of the spends. Maybe also thinking about sharing some barriers to overcome with the public. What can we, how can we solve the basic problems we have when we want to set new collaborations? So looking ahead and looking at what are the hurdles? Would like to have some of your insights.
Yeah, I can kick in maybe. As I said, I think we are at a time where there are several big systemic challenges that brands are realizing that they are better equipped doing together than alone. And so I think there's a massive opportunity in that. Why aren't we seeing that more? Why aren't that being driven more? I think sometimes what tends to happen is it becomes a siloed approach. Sometimes legislation can be in the way. There are many times when legislation is actually holding back from some of these collaborations because people might have a sit and wait strategy because you might want to launch a different type of packaging. Do you want to be the first one that does that? Do you want to be the first one that takes the risk? If you coordinate that might not be legal in every market across the world. So there are certain barriers to that. one of the things I'm quite fascinated about at the moment is also when brands come together and actually create products together and think, how can we even drive this agenda better forward? Allbirds and Adidas have launched a sneaker together. We've seen Palais for the Ocean, an Ocean on Profit work also together with Adidas. So I think productifying things is key. And probably as a last remark, which is probably a challenge, for me, I do still think that sustainability often gets into that box of having to cost more. And with a cost of living crisis, I do think we need to look at how do we make sustainability more mainstream. I mean, you talked a little about food, availability of food, cost of food. And so I really think as an industry, we need to look at delivering sustainability to more people and make it more affordable. It shouldn't always be at a cost premium.
And that's why I think that, linked to your point and what you've said, for instance, on packaging, I think that the challenges in front of us are so big that the only way to manage it is really to cooperate. So if you, and we are a portion business. We are working a lot on packaging, on sustainable packaging. And packaging is fantastic. It's food safety. It's portion control. It's enabling to diminish food waste. But you need to make it sustainable. And to find the packaging of tomorrow, you need to cooperate with scientists. You need to cooperate with packaging makers. We cannot do it alone. Especially, as you said, that if you want to make it, and we need to make it affordable to become mainstream. And I think that there are a lot of challenges today and tomorrow that needs to be addressed in ecosystem. The nutrition topic is a very high one. You have as much people who are overweighted as people who are underweighted, 800 million on each side. It becomes a political topic because the government cannot support the cost of obesity. So there is a role from the government, there is a role from the food provider, there is a role from the retailers because they have a role in offering the right food nutrition to the consumer. So that's why we strongly believe that for tomorrow, if you want to have a real impact, it cannot be siloed actions. It needs to be cooperation. It needs also to be information and engagement of the consumer because you can invent the packaging of tomorrow. If the consumer doesn't want it, doesn't accept it, then you have no model. It's not a question of business model, it's a question of consumption model. So this is where I think that cooperation will help, data will help, science will help a lot because we'll be able to accelerate the learnings and the discovery in that area. What we call the tech for good is also the way that will articulate the food system of tomorrow.
Tech is everywhere. I'm glad we didn't talk about AI, by the way, today.
Talk about tech and science.
Okay.
First panel and can.
Okay. Maybe, Poppy, if you want to share some closing thoughts?
Yeah, I think I would just say, I think we need to move away from short-termism. I think while sustainability isn't a nascent concept, it is quite nascent for brands to start investing in it properly and authentically and engagingly. And I've seen so many organizations say, actually, we're going to cut the brand budget, we're going to cut the content budget, and we don't need any of that. We don't need impact. We don't need L&D. We don't need HR. We're just going to focus on performance marketing. And that's it happens so often. And we're just going to funnel our cash into clicks and likes because we know it has a very clear ROI.
I would challenge that.
Would you?
I don't think there is a clear ROI, but anyway.
No, I completely agree with you. I think people who think there is a clear ROI are wrong. I feel really strongly about it. And I'm like, we're in a stage where there are obvious case studies with Patagonias of the world and the case studies that we've talked about today. But so many brands are nervous that investing in impact isn't going to affect shareholder value. They're nervous that it isn't going to affect the bottom line. And actually, there's significant evidence that shows that if you're investing in impact and purpose properly, your brand equity heightens. You've got more consumers. You've got a huge head start against the other brands. And I think we've got to move away from short-termism and start thinking long-term if we want to kind of make real change.
Thank you very much, Poppy, and thank you all for being there with me today.
Thank you for having us.
See you next time.